The sun dipped low behind the jagged peaks, casting long shadows that crept across the forest floor. I stepped into my patrol vehicle, inhaling deeply as the scent of pine needles and damp earth enveloped me, a familiar comfort yet a burden I carried like a badge. As I adjusted my cap, I could feel the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. This was more than a job, it was a calling. The laughter of college kids echoed through the air, their boisterous energy cutting through the tranquil ambience of the park. I approached their campsite, my heart racing slightly as I prepared to deliver another safety reminder. "Hey! Keep that campfire small." My voice sliced through their jovial chatter, and I noticed the dismissive glares they shot back at me. Their laughter resumed, louder now as if to drown out my authority. Each glance stung. They saw me as an obstacle in their adventure rather than a guardian of the wild. I walked away, pushing down my irritation. As I continued along the gravel path, I heard one hiker nearby exclaim with awe, "No way, you actually work out here alone?" His tone held a mix of admiration and pity that always made me bristle. Did he think my role was any less significant because it lacked the thrill he imagined? My heart quickened at the thought. I had chosen this life for its challenges and beauty, not to be an object of curiosity. The damp chill seeped into my bones as fog began to roll in from the east, swallowing the distant peaks of Blackwood Forest in an ethereal embrace. The world around me shifted, shadows danced between trees and whispers seemed to flutter just beyond perception. A vague sense of unease tugged at me, a primal instinct urging caution. This evening had an eerie quality that deepened with every passing moment. Driven by an unsettling hunch that something awaited me deeper within those woods, I decided to take the longer, less traveled trail. As I ventured off the familiar path, branches scratched against my uniform like skeletal fingers reaching out from the darkness. Each step felt deliberate yet fraught with tension, an invisible thread connecting me to whatever lay ahead. My flashlight flickered on as twilight descended rapidly around me. The beam cut through swirling mist, revealing patches of underbrush tangled like forgotten memories. Suddenly, a distant sound shattered the silence, a low rustling followed by an unmistakable snap of twigs underfoot. My heart raced. It was too dark for animals to be out this late. I stopped in my tracks and listened intently. The rustling persisted, closer now, and adrenaline surged through my veins as fear settled in my gut like a stone. "Hello?" My voice wavered slightly as I called into the void. It felt foolish yet necessary to break that oppressive silence. No reply came except for a soft sigh carried by the wind, a whisper urging me forward or pulling me back into safety. The fog thickened around me, wrapping its tendrils tighter until even light struggled to penetrate its depths. As I pressed deeper into this disquieting landscape, shadows darted just outside my line of sight, flickers of movement that teased my senses and sent shivers down my spine. Perhaps it was nothing more than wildlife disturbed by my presence or merely figments spun from imagination fueled by isolation. Yet something compelled me onward, a relentless drive urging exploration despite growing trepidation. I felt drawn toward whatever secret lingered beyond those trees, a truth waiting patiently beneath layers of leaves and fog. Then suddenly, there it was, a glint caught in the beam of my flashlight, something metallic half buried beneath dried leaves and dirt. My pulse quickened as curiosity overrode caution. I knelt down to uncover what lay hidden from view. With trembling hands, I brushed away debris to reveal an old compass, its face scratched but still intact. A chill washed over me as I realized it belonged to someone who had strayed from safety long ago, perhaps someone who became part of those ghostly legends whispered around campfires at night. I could almost hear their stories echoing in my mind, the lost souls swallowed by nature's wild embrace, stories meant to warn but now felt all too real as this forgotten artifact lay before me like an ominous omen. What happened here? My voice trembled into silence again, as if uttering such questions might summon answers better left undisturbed. A sudden crack echoed through the woods behind me, a sharp sound that cut through introspection like glass shattering against stone. Instinct kicked in, adrenaline coursed through every fiber of my being as I turned sharply toward where I'd heard it. Who's there? My heart thundered painfully in response to an unseen presence lurking just beyond reach, the feeling intensified with each second ticking away like clockwork winding tighter. As anticipation churned within me like a storm gathering strength outside those treetops above, I stood resolute against uncertainty, waiting, watching, inhaling what could become one final breath before plunging headfirst into whatever fate awaited in darkness ahead. As I stood in the dimly lit ranger station, my brother's frantic presence overwhelmed the mundane chatter of the evening. The urgency in his voice sliced through my thoughts like a sharp knife. "We need to talk," he repeated, and I could see the fear etched across his features. My heart raced at the sight. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. "What's going on, Matt?" I asked, grabbing my notepad to jot down every detail he might provide. His words poured out like a rushing river, raw and unfiltered. "It's Ashley. She went missing near the old mill." The weight of his revelation crashed over me, and I felt a chill creep up my spine as I scribbled down her last known location. "Missing? How long has she been gone?" My voice trembled slightly, dread pooling in my stomach as he explained. "Just a few hours. She wouldn't just wander off. Something's wrong, I just know it." The desperation in his bloodshot eyes ignited an unsettling dread within me that I couldn't shake off. "All right," I said firmly, shaking off my initial panic. "Let's get moving." We both stepped outside into the cool evening air. The fading light cast eerie shadows among the trees surrounding us. My flashlight beam cut through the thick undergrowth as we ventured toward the old mill. Each step felt heavy with apprehension. I could almost taste the metallic tang of fear lingering in my mouth, a primal warning echoing in my ears. Matt walked beside me, his anxious energy palpable. "We should have never let her go alone," he muttered, guilt threading through his tone. I chose not to respond. Instead, I focused on the path ahead, where rusted, "No trespassing" signs loomed like sentinels guarding forgotten secrets. Ignoring their warnings felt reckless yet necessary. We couldn't afford to hesitate when Ashley's safety hung in balance. The trees closed in around us as we pressed deeper into forbidden territory. Branches clawed at my uniform like skeletal fingers desperate for attention. With each crunch of leaves beneath our feet, tension mounted, filling every breath with an unshakable urgency. What if she fell or got hurt? Matt's voice cracked with worry as we reached a clearing littered with debris from years of neglect. "I can't believe we're doing this." I paused for a moment to scan our surroundings. My flashlight swept across broken machinery and remnants of an old life, a time when laughter and warmth filled this place instead of foreboding silence. "We need to find any signs of her," I urged him forward, determined to break through our shared anxiety. Then something caught my eye, a trail marked by snapped branches and an unsettling set of drag marks leading deeper into the woods beyond the mill. My pulse quickened at this discovery. Whatever had happened here was no accident. "Over here." I called out to Matt as I followed the trail, adrenaline coursing through my veins as uncertainty clung to me like mist in the night air. He rushed over, eyes wide with disbelief at what lay before us. "She wouldn't just leave this way," he murmured softly, scanning the ground for clues while horror reflected back from his expression. "Something made her go this way, I insisted as fear settled heavily in my chest like a stone weighing me down. We needed answers, now more than ever, and yet a chilling thought lingered at the edges of my mind. What if we were too late? I pushed further into the darkness against all instincts urging caution. Every fiber of my being screamed that turning back was wiser than forging ahead into this unsettling unknown. But abandoning Ashley wasn't an option. I needed to confront whatever lurked beyond that line. "This doesn't feel right," Matt whispered just behind me, his hesitation palpable even amidst our frantic search for answers. Ignoring his warning required all my willpower. Determination burned fiercely inside me as I stepped past another rusted sign buried beneath layers of dirt and decay that read, "Danger, enter at your own risk." "I know it's risky," I admitted while scanning ahead for any signs of life or movement in those oppressive woods. Stillness enveloped us like an unwelcome embrace, thick and suffocating. "I can't help but think about what stories come from places like this," Matt remarked quietly, shaking off goosebumps that crept up his arms, a reflection of our growing unease amidst uncertainty. At that moment, something shifted deep within those shadows, a rustling sound breaking through silence followed by an eerie stillness that sent icy tendrils creeping down my spine once again. My heart raced anew as adrenaline surged with renewed vigor at what awaited us ahead. "Did you hear that?" My voice came out barely above a whisper, the gravity around us pressing harder than before as anticipation knotted tightly within me alongside fear's relentless grip. "Yeah." "What was it?" Matt asked cautiously while edging closer toward me, our breaths synchronized rhythmically as trepidation reigned supreme between us both now, pushing us closer together physically even when dread held sway over our minds collectively. Inching forward cautiously yet purposefully along jagged terrain strewn with stones slick from moisture accumulated during recent rains brought forth more questions than answers about Ashley's fate hidden somewhere beyond these twisted paths made darker by trees overhead blocking out any remaining light filtering through thick branches draped low near ground level obscuring visibility entirely at times leaving only faint glimmers illuminating, fragments caught within shadows dancing erratically around us unexpectedly creating an atmosphere rich enough for nightmares born anew each passing moment spent wandering deeper still without resolution emerging clearly from chaos surrounding everything currently unfolding between ourselves beneath night sky blanketed overhead dotted sporadically by distant stars twinkling brightly far above yet so very far away from where reality lay waiting anxiously below ground level here. Amidst woods whispering secrets yet untold begging exploration despite fears rising high steeply alongside unease brewing steadily inside hearts beating faster now faced against relentless ticking clock reminding time slipping away slowly but surely leaving little hope lingering anymore unless something changed very soon indeed. I remember the moment when I stumbled upon the unnatural pulse emanating from the rock face, a grotesque, breathing gateway hidden behind a curtain of overgrown vines near the ruins of the old mill. My mind struggled to process what lay before me, but there it was, an entrance that felt alive, as if it were a creature itself. The air around me grew thick with an inexplicable energy that sent ripples of fear coursing through my veins. I stepped closer, compelled despite every rational thought screaming for me to turn back. As I peered into the darkness, my breath hitched, catching in my throat like a fish out of water. In that dreadful moment, I caught a sickening glimpse of Ashley's torn jacket entwined with pulsating, fleshy tendrils. My stomach twisted violently, it was as if the fabric screamed her name in silent agony. Panic surged within me as reality crashed down like an avalanche. I was witnessing something far beyond comprehension. Then came the sound, a guttural slurp, wet and impossibly loud, echoing from the depths of that abyssal maw. It ripped through my sanity like jagged glass, confirming the unspeakable horror unfolding before my eyes. Each beat of my heart resonated against this monstrous revelation, a frantic reminder that time was slipping away from me. The overwhelming coppery stench of blood filled my nostrils, wrapping around me like an icy shroud. I felt terror seize my lungs in its icy grip. I scrambled backward instinctively, my legs barely holding me up as I fought against the paralysis gripping my body. "Matt!" I choked out in desperation, but his voice seemed muted against the overwhelming noise from below. My mind raced through every terrible scenario. What had happened to Ashley? What kind of horror awaited us in that darkness? The thought pushed me further back into reality as I turned on my heel and ran. Each step was fueled by pure adrenaline as I tore through the underbrush, branches clawing at my uniform and skin like creatures attempting to drag me back into the nightmare behind me. "We have to go." I gasped at Matt's shocked expression when he caught up with me. His eyes were wide with confusion and fear. "What did you see?" he demanded breathlessly, dread creeping into his tone. "I don't know how to explain it." My words tumbled out in a rush as we sprinted together away from that cursed spot. "There's something down there, something alive." Ashley's jacket. It was wrapped in those tendrils. The look on his face twisted into horror as he processed my words, but there was no time for hesitation. Our only chance lay in escaping whatever darkness lurked behind us. The forest felt alive with unseen eyes watching our frantic retreat, branches snapping underfoot echoing our panic as if nature itself conspired against us. "Wait! What if she needs help?" Matt shouted over his shoulder, desperation coloring his voice. I turned sharply to face him, feeling anger flare alongside fear. "We can't go back. Not after what I've seen." The urgency pierced through our shared anxiety like a knife. We had to keep moving forward or risk becoming part of whatever malevolence resided in those shadows. But then came another sound, a soft whisper carried by the wind that made my skin crawl. It seemed almost familiar yet horrifically foreign at once. A blend of guttural tones and desperate cries mingled together in an eerie harmony that sent chills down my spine. I wanted to press on without looking back but found myself frozen momentarily by an unseen force anchoring me in place. "Mike!" Matt's voice broke through again, bringing clarity back to me just before I could succumb entirely to fear's grip. "We have to get help. Now!" Nodding vigorously despite the unease thrumming beneath my skin, I turned and dashed deeper into the woods alongside him. Shadows stretched longer around us as dusk fell heavier upon our surroundings. Thick fog began rolling back in from the east like an ominous tide threatening to engulf everything whole. Then came another sound, this one unmistakably close, a low growl reverberating through the ground beneath our feet that vibrated deep within my chest. Instinctively, I looked over at Matt. His eyes mirrored mine, wide with terror, and for a split second we both understood, we were not alone here. "Run!" My command thundered between us even before fully processing what lurked just beyond sight. The primal urge to survive kicking into high gear propelled us forward again without looking back once more. Branches whipped at us mercilessly as we navigated through twisting trees and bramble, desperately seeking escape while trying not to think about what horrors lay behind us or how deep we had ventured into Blackwood's Maw already, the very heart of darkness itself. With every hurried breath came another realization weighing heavily upon me. Time was running out fast, and so were our chances for survival if we didn't find safety soon enough. What awaited us at dawn would be far worse than any nightmare could conjure up. Suddenly Matt stumbled forward unexpectedly before crashing against thick brush ahead of him, an audible gasp escaping him just moments before hitting ground hard enough for soil particles erupting into mini clouds around him while shock coursed through both our bodies. "Get up!" My voice rang out frantically amidst rising panic boiling inside me once again. No more delays now, we had come too far already. But then something caught my eye within shadows lingering nearby. it drew closer too fast for comfort and all sense of normalcy shattered instantly, another appendage appearing where none should exist. My instincts kicked fully into gear once more. I lunged forward towards Matt, who lay stunned still on ground below. Knowing this might be our last chance at escape, I gripped tightly onto his arm, pulling him upright just as whatever dwelled beyond emerged fully, revealing grotesque tendrils stretching forth hungrily toward us both. And then all went dark. I stared at my reflection in the diner window, a haunted stranger looking back at me as I nursed my lukewarm coffee. The bitter taste of ash lingered in my mouth, a reminder of the terror that had unfolded just days before. Each sip felt like swallowing shards of glass as I replayed the events leading up to Ashley's disappearance. The clattering of cutlery and murmurs of patrons filled the air, but they felt worlds away, trapped in a fog that clouded my mind. I was alone in a room full of people, grappling with a reality no one else seemed to comprehend. Hours melted away as I spent time poring over dusty microfiches at the Blackwood Historical Society. My fingers traced forgotten names in old newspaper archives, desperately searching for connections that might provide insight into Ashley's fate. I could almost hear the whispers of those who vanished long ago, their stories merging with the shadows I now inhabited. Each name etched on paper felt like another thread weaving into this grim tapestry of disappearances. Frustration bubbled inside me when I couldn't find anything concrete, only hints and vague references to lost souls, all possibly linked to this place. "Jessica, you sound crazy," John said dismissively, his voice flat and cutting through my determination like a knife. "There's no cave, no monster, just a tragically lost hiker." His words stung more than I expected. It was as if he had dismissed not just my findings but my very experience. My heart raced at the thought. How could anyone believe that what lay beneath those layers of vines was anything less than sinister? I looked down at my notes cluttered with hastily scribbled thoughts and scribbles. A prickle of cold suspicion slithered through me as I recognized a recurring symbol, a twisted vine motif appearing in countless articles linked to disappearances across decades. My breath caught in my throat. It felt like uncovering an ancient curse festering beneath the town's surface, hidden by years of denial and neglect. Each revelation pulled me deeper into a rabbit hole I feared would consume me entirely. Determined not to let doubt sway me, I committed to this solo quest, a moral debt owed to Michael and Ashley that solidified within me like unyielding stone. Even if it meant losing my job or spiraling into madness, there was no turning back now. The stakes were too high, lives hung in the balance, and all paths led back to that grotesque entrance hidden behind the old mill's ruins. With renewed resolve coursing through my veins, I gathered what little equipment I had, a flashlight, rope, and a first aid kit nestled deep within my backpack. Each item weighed heavily against me, not physically but emotionally, as if they represented both hope and dread for what lay ahead. As I stepped out into the crisp evening air once more, the chill nipped at my skin like icy fingers drawing me toward an inevitable confrontation. The path wound through dense foliage thick with underbrush, a stark contrast from the sterile environment of the diner and archives. Every rustle echoed ominously around me, amplifying each heartbeat that reverberated within my chest. With every step closer to that cursed site, unease coiled tighter around me like a serpent poised to strike. I reached the clearing where we had once discovered those terrible drag marks leading deeper into obscurity, an unsettling reminder of our frantic flight from whatever darkness lurked beyond that rock face. This time I stood resolute. There would be no retreating from this nightmare without answers. "Here goes nothing," I muttered under my breath as I approached that pulsating entrance once more, the vines swaying slightly as though beckoning me forward with hypnotic allure. As soon as I entered, an otherworldly sensation enveloped me. It was as if stepping through a threshold into another realm entirely. The air thickened with humidity, each breath became labored amidst an aroma saturated with decay and something primal. Animalistic instinct screamed for escape while curiosity pulled me deeper inside. The beam from my flashlight danced erratically over jagged rock walls slick with moisture. Shadows flickered menacingly just beyond reach. Panic threatened to grip hold again when suddenly, my light fell upon something unexpected. Remnants scattered across the ground, pieces of clothing intertwined with those same twisted vines depicted in newspaper articles. My pulse quickened dramatically as dread washed over me anew. These weren't just any scraps, they were unmistakably Ashley's. Torn fabric lay frozen among coils that seemed alive, a grotesque nest formed from desperation and despair. I knelt down, trembling hands brushing against them gently. Each touch sent electric jolts through me, a desperate plea echoing against hollow walls for someone to bear witness, to acknowledge her plight even if only for this moment suspended in time. "I'll find you." My voice surged outwards, defiantly breaking free from this dark chamber filled with echoes of loss, a promise made not just for Ashley but for every soul who had slipped into this abyss unseen by those above ground. But even as conviction bloomed within me like wildflowers breaking through concrete cracks, a faint whisper curled around my ears, slicing through determination. "You shouldn't have come here." Chills skittered down my spine as instinct kicked in. The sound rippled around me, sending tremors through fragile silence, drowning out every rational thought urging retreat, but curiosity urged otherwise. What kind of force resided here? Could it be protecting something, or was it merely consuming those naive enough to trespass? I stood still, trying hard not to let fear overwhelm reason, the voice flickering just beyond perception, teasing edges blurred between reality and myth swirling together, leaving lingering questions trailing behind like smoke after fire extinguished too soon. As awareness dawned upon me, I realized one thing became painfully clear. Understanding this mystery meant confronting whatever dark entity waited within these depths, ready to claim its next victim, or perhaps reveal truths long buried beneath layers of mythos crafted by collective fear itself. Determined yet fearful, I knew what must come next. It wasn't merely about finding Ashley anymore, it transformed into uncovering truths buried deep within this place, and ultimately confronting whatever awaited beyond its treacherous veil. I gripped the rusted machete tighter, its cold weight a small, false comfort as I pushed through the familiar, dread-filled foliage toward the old mill site. Each step felt like a confrontation with my fears. Thick branches clawed at my arms, and unseen creatures rustled ominously in the underbrush. The darkness had returned, swallowing the last remnants of light, but I had no choice. Ashley was out there somewhere, and I needed to find her. My heart raced as I recalled the tales of those who had ventured too close to this cursed site. It was no longer just folklore, this was real. With every breath, I inhaled the musty scent of decay mixed with something metallic, a reminder that I was venturing into a realm where nature's laws no longer applied. As I approached the cave's entrance, dread coiled in my stomach like a serpent. The ground beneath my feet squished unnervingly, and I could feel the slick residue of some dark presence coating my boots. It was as if the cave itself were alive, breathing in tandem with the pulsing energy that emanated from within. I paused for a moment at the threshold, summoning every ounce of courage within me. "I'm coming for you, you hear me?" I whispered into the suffocating darkness, my voice trembling but resolute, a desperate challenge to whatever horror lurked in that abyss. A flutter of hope stirred within me. If only Ashley could hear me too. Lowering myself into the cave's maw felt like descending into hell itself. The air grew heavier with each step, it pressed against my chest and made every inhale feel like a struggle. I carefully lowered the motion-activated camera into the depths, my last hope for capturing irrefutable proof of whatever had taken her. The camera's tiny red light flickered briefly before disappearing into shadows deeper than night itself. As I descended further into that living nightmare, jagged rocks jutted out like teeth ready to consume me whole. My pulse quickened as an unsettling sensation washed over me. It was almost as if something was watching back from those pitch-black corners. My mind raced with images of Ashley, her laughter echoing in my ears, an anchor tethering me to my purpose even as terror clawed at my resolve. Suddenly, an earth-shattering shriek erupted from behind me, a sound so primal it vibrated through my bones and froze my blood. Instinctively, I spun around and saw them, writhing tendrils emerging from deeper within the cave, their grotesque forms illuminated by weak rays filtering through cracks above us. They moved with a life of their own, agitated and hungry, slithering across stones slick with something unidentifiable yet undeniably foul. The sight sent fresh adrenaline coursing through my veins. Panic ignited within me. There was no going back now. Just ahead lay that grotesque gateway, the source of this nightmare, and if Ashley was still alive, she needed me to confront it head-on. I triggered the timed explosives tucked tightly in my backpack, a desperate gamble to rid this place of its sinister grip once and for all, and began sprinting back toward daylight while chaos erupted behind me. The ground quaked beneath my feet as tendrils lashed out in fury, thrashing at my heels like angry serpents desperate to reclaim their territory. My lungs burned as I dashed through darkness toward freedom, each stride pulling me closer to salvation while behind me echoed an otherworldly cacophony, a mix of shrieks and guttural growls that tore through the cave's walls like thunder rolling across stormy skies. Just then, an overwhelming wave of fear crashed over me. I stumbled on something slick and lost precious seconds regaining balance amidst the chaos around me. My heart pounded against its cage like a frantic bird trying to escape captivity. Would it be enough? Would Ashley's life hinge on mere moments? In an instant that felt like eternity, blinding light flooded over me as I broke free from that malevolent cavern into open air once more, a gasp escaping from lips parched by desperation and fear. Turning back just long enough to witness what would become either salvation or damnation for us both, tendrils whipped wildly toward daylight while echoes morphed into furious howls behind me. Without hesitation, I plunged forward deeper into sunlight's embrace. Time felt suspended in those final moments leading up to detonation, a heartbeat away from annihilation that promised freedom yet bore consequences unknown. Now! My voice broke through panic-laden silence as fingers trembled over triggers secured tight against trembling palms. The moment hung heavy in anticipation before releasing thunderous roars all around. With each explosive blast came violent upheaval. The earth shook beneath our feet while chaos erupted inside that dark womb where nightmares festered. A final cry resounded before everything went still, silence smothering even nature itself, the ominous calm after fury unleashed upon hidden horrors below ground. Breathless now yet filled with fierce determination despite trembling limbs, I turned cautiously away from destruction wrought by reckoning fulfilled though uncertainty gnawed still deep inside. What had emerged victorious? Did Ashley lie safe somewhere still, or did shadows claim her instead? As reality crashed down once more around shattered fragments left behind, I knew then we'd crossed lines both drawn in blood and terror alike, and nothing would ever remain unchanged thereafter. I remember that night, the flickering television casting eerie shadows across my cramped living room. I sat on the edge of my couch, heart pounding as the local news anchor spoke in a monotone voice about recent tremors and strange lights in the vicinity of Yosemite. Just another natural seismic event, she said, her words echoing through my mind like a cruel taunt. I felt a sickening knot tighten in my stomach, knowing I had tried to warn them, tried to make them see what was happening beneath our feet. But they dismissed me, laughed at the idea that something unnatural lurked in those woods. It was a bitter pill to swallow, feeling utterly alone in my understanding of this dark truth. I glanced around my dim apartment, cluttered with old hiking gear and maps, remnants of my life before all this chaos unfolded. My hands trembled as I reached for the phone to call Emily. She was the only one who believed even a fraction of my story. "I'm gathering supplies," I said when she answered, urgency fueling my voice. The muffled sounds of a bustling diner filled the background as she sighed heavily. "They won't listen, Jessica," she warned, her tone filled with desperate concern. "You're risking everything, your career, your freedom, your future." Each word struck like a hammer against glass. I could almost hear it shattering around me. The weight of isolation pressed down hard on my shoulders. Did anyone else feel this gnawing fear? Did they understand what lurked just beyond our reality? I had to act. Later that night, under the cover of darkness, I slipped out into the cool air that clung to my skin like a second layer. The park shed loomed ahead, its silhouette stark against the moonlit sky. I moved quietly, heart racing as adrenaline surged through my veins. This was it, the point of no return. Inside, I gathered industrial-grade cement and tools, preparing for what felt like an impossible task, sealing away whatever horror resided beneath those ancient stones. As I loaded up my backpack with supplies, doubts crept into my mind like unwelcome intruders. What if this didn't work? What if sealing that gateway only made things worse? Still, one undeniable truth anchored me: Ashley deserved better than to be claimed by whatever dwelled there. Stepping outside again into the crisp night air felt surreal. Stars twinkled overhead like silent witnesses to my reckless determination. Each step toward that cursed mill site took me deeper into enemy territory, a place where shadows whispered secrets and nightmares took root. At that moment, as I approached the overgrown path leading back to the cave entrance, memories flooded through me. Ashley's laughter echoed in my ears, mixed with haunting visions of tendrils slithering through darkness. A surge of rage ignited within. They had taken too much already. Reaching the mill's dilapidated structure sent shivers racing down my spine. It loomed before me like a predator waiting to pounce. My breath came quicker as dread coiled tighter around me. I would not let fear dictate this night any longer. With trembling hands, I set to work mixing cement and pouring it into gaps surrounding that unholy gateway beneath layers of vines and earth. Each scoop felt like an act of defiance against forces beyond comprehension, a way to reclaim some semblance of control over a world gone mad. "Come on," I muttered under my breath as sweat trickled down my brow and pooled at the nape of my neck. Time was slipping away from me like sand through fingers grasping desperately for salvation. The silence enveloping me turned oppressive. It was as if nature itself held its breath in anticipation of what would come next. My heart raced louder than ever before while shadows danced just out of sight. Suddenly, a low growl vibrated through the ground beneath me. Panic surged within me as instinct kicked in. Adrenaline propelled me backward just as tendrils burst forth from their hidden lair. They writhed angrily above ground, an army summoned from nightmares ready to reclaim their domain. "No!" My voice broke through sheer terror as realization hit hard. Sealing this gateway wouldn't be enough. They were waking up. With renewed fervor igniting every fiber of my being, I fought against creeping despair and finished pouring cement with frantic precision. Then came a gut-wrenching decision. I grabbed an explosive device from deep within my pack. It was a gamble, but one worth taking if it meant putting an end to this nightmare once and for all. I felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily upon me. The burden grew unbearably crushing, but there wasn't time for hesitation now. With trembling hands and racing pulse pushing me forward into chaos once again, I activated the timer and sprinted away from that accursed place toward what little safety lay beyond its twisted grasp. Every heartbeat echoed loud in my ears as darkness closed in behind me. The growls intensified while tendrils lashed out blindly towards where I had just stood moments ago. A primal urge drove every step forward, it screamed at me to escape but also urged caution. Disaster was mere moments away. Please let this work. The prayer left my lips before merging with terrified breaths caught between sanity and madness, each stride pulling farther away from horrors unleashed behind me while blinding light beckoned ahead, a glimpse of hope breaking through suffocating fear. Then came thunderous explosions behind me, each blast reverberating through both earth and air like gods declaring war upon unseen foes. Chaos erupted around us while fragments rained down alongside dust spiraling upward into oblivion, and still, I ran onward toward salvation. At last breaking free into open air, I gasped desperately for breath while adrenaline coursed wildly through veins now electrified by survival instinct alone. Reality settled heavily upon weary shoulders, yet uncertainty gnawed incessantly at consciousness. The aftermath still unknown weighed heavy despite brief reprieve granted by daylight's embrace. Finally turning back toward smoldering ruins left behind, I couldn't shake feeling something still lingered within those depths, some essence refusing closure or quietude even after obliteration brought forth by reckoning fulfilled. What remained hidden? What truths would forever elude us both? Would Ashley ever truly rest easy knowing her fate intertwined irrevocably with shadows born long ago? I shoveled the last load of fast-drying cement, my muscles screaming in protest as the pale gray stone slowly swallowed the pulsating dark maw of the old mill entrance. Each scoop felt like a weighty reminder of the horrors I'd faced, but I pressed on, driven by an insatiable urge to seal away that which had haunted me for far too long. The rain poured down around me, cold and cleansing, mingling with my tears as I carved a small, defiant, into the drying cement, a silent memorial for Ashley and all the others lost to this forsaken place. At that moment, I looked up at the sky, its clouds swirling ominously overhead as if nature itself lamented alongside me. "Sleep tight, you ugly thing. And starve," I muttered into the desolate night, my voice hoarse and barely audible over the relentless patter of rain against earth. I could feel the ground tremble one last desperate time beneath me, a final protest from whatever had lurked within those shadows. My heart raced. Was it truly over? Had I managed to sever its connection to this world? As I took a step back from my work, I felt a profound peace settle over me. It was heavy yet soothing, an understanding washing over me that I had done what needed to be done, even if no one else would ever understand. The rain continued to fall, drenching my clothes and mixing with mud at my feet. It felt like a baptism of sorts. This was not just about sealing away darkness, it was about reclaiming control over my own life. I turned toward what remained of the mill, its rotting timbers now hidden beneath layers of cement, and let out a deep breath as relief coursed through me. I recognized that this fight was never meant to be waged alone. Ashley would have wanted me to move forward, to find light amid darkness, and perhaps now I could do just that. Yet something gnawed at me still, lingering doubts echoed in my mind like whispers from the shadows I'd just escaped. Would sealing that gateway truly protect future wanderers from whatever malevolence festered beneath? Or would it merely delay an inevitable resurgence? The thought hung heavy in the air around me as rain dripped from branches above, forming tiny pools at my feet, a reflection of uncertainty pooling deep within my soul. In that moment of introspection, I noticed how eerily silent it had become. The rain had softened its descent into a gentle mist while shadows cast by dying light seemed less menacing than before. Was it possible that this place could finally breathe again? Perhaps even thrive beyond its horrific past? Determined not to linger longer than necessary, I took one last glance around before turning away from the mill's remnants. The forest loomed ahead, dark yet inviting, an expanse teeming with possibilities waiting to unfold beyond memories stained with loss. I walked away slowly, leaving behind not only the ruins but also my ranger badge and old life, the burden once donned proudly now felt like a shackle weighing heavily against hope for new beginnings. With each step deeper into Blackwood Forest's embrace, I embraced my new role, becoming a silent guardian forever marked by its terrifying secrets buried deep below. Tonight marked both an ending and a beginning, a closing chapter on nightmares intertwined with reality and opening another filled with promise and potential. Each footfall echoed softly across damp earth, resonating through every fiber of my being. They were no longer laden with fear but rather infused with purpose. And so it was that I ventured forth into uncharted territory, ready to forge connections anew while allowing Ashley's memory to guide me along paths yet unexplored. My heart remained heavy with grief but lighter than before, strength coursed through every vein as sunlight peeked through mist-kissed trees above, a beacon illuminating what lay ahead. Today, when I look back on those harrowing moments spent sealing off darkness beneath layers of cement, I realize how much I've learned about courage and resilience in facing fears head-on. Never again would I allow shadows to dictate boundaries or define who I am becoming amidst all that remains unseen. I discovered that sometimes true guardianship lies not merely in protecting but also in letting go, the willingness to embrace uncertainty while honoring those we've lost along the way. As dawn began breaking through trees above, I knew then that every journey carries fragments of both past and future woven seamlessly together by choices made under duress. Every step forward became a testament not only for Ashley but also for myself, a reminder etched forevermore within this living tapestry called life, where light meets shadow in delicate balance as we carve our destinies anew amid nature's resilient embrace.